is Dick, WB2JPQ, and along with Scott, W2BLT, and Vicky, KE8VKY on the log tonight. And we'll be doing the East Coast Reflector TECH Net number 625 on this June 10th, 2025. As always, we start out with our team members, see if any of them have anything to report. And we should get a list here of silent keys if there were any. From our database, Joe's here with us tonight in the Zoom room, KD2TFP for the Celebrity of the Week. And then we welcome any new users to this net. We do a call for new users and get them up at the top of the net. And we take stations with amateur radio related questions. Hopefully we'll have some good questions tonight. I was told last night that Charles, our antenna farm man, is not going to be with us tonight. Unless something changes, I don't think he's going to be with us tonight, so we won't have his expertise. And then I normally send it up to Kevin, VE3BZ, and see what we have on our swap and shop, but he just texted me and said thumbs down. He's got nothing in the swap shop for us this week. A couple of announcements from me. The Western New York meet and greet is coming up on the 21st. It's a week from Saturday. We're trying to get things finalized. So if you're planning on going, please, let us know. And we are attempting to put a little bit of an informal dinner together on Friday night, the 20th. If there's anybody in the area that's either coming from out of town that we don't know about or in Western New York that would like to join us, we need to know. So just email me, my call sign at AOL.com, and let me know that you want to join us on Friday night. I don't have any details yet. We're just going to see how many we got and then put something on for Friday night, the night before the meet and greet. What else do I have here? Thursday night, this week is our town hall meeting. We started the East Coast Reflector town hall meeting once a month. Last month was our first one. It went off very, very well. We had a lot of favorable comments. We learned a lot from our people. So if you would like to join us at 8 o'clock in our Zoom room Thursday night, we'd love to have you if you want to feel a part of the East Coast Reflector and basically let your voice be heard. Come join us 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night is open mic, a new net that we started here, 10, 12 weeks ago. Probably Jason or Mark will come in and maybe tell you about that, but that's going to be tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So with that being said, and our question tonight, we're running out of questions, but where do you go to do your radio checks? If you're on All-Star, do you use the Parrot, the 55553? If you're on IRLP, do you use the 9990? How do you do your radio checks? How do you set your audio? Maybe just come on the East Coast Reflector and ask for a radio check. We certainly get hundreds of those in the course of a week, so I guess that's our question tonight. How and where do you do your radio checks? So any team members, anybody on the East Coast Reflector team will have anything to report this evening? Your call sign twice, please. This is Dick, WB2JPQ. This is K4KU, K4KU. 4KU. Good evening, Jason.
Hey, Dick and everybody on the TECH Net. I appreciate the plug for the open mic net tomorrow night. If anyone's interested in being a future net controller on the open mic net, we do have our webpage on the East Coast Reflector now under nets. You can sign up there. We'd love to give you a chance to learn what it's like to run the net on the back end. And with that, I'll just answer the question briefly and say that I do my radio checks on the Listen Live feature on the East Coast Reflector. Have a great net, everyone. Back to net control. This is K4KU.
And maybe we'll talk about that a little more as the net goes on here tonight, the Listen Live feature. We have two feeds for those of you that don't know on our website. One's delayed and one's real time. So you got time to be in your driveway and testing your mobile, run in the house real quick, and if your car isn't too far from the house, you'll hear yourself come back about 3 minutes later. I'm going to ask Vicki to do an announcement tonight. She's got the information on a up-and-coming aeronautical mobile. Vicki, good evening.
Hey, this is Vicki K, VKY. We've got 2 experiments coming up with Carlos and 1 CBM. First one's tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. I know, it's morning brew competition on 14317. He's taking off at 7, so probably 7:20-ish, be ready. He'll be working with Roger KO4 FRR to take check-ins, and then Roger will send you up to him. And also Thursday at 5 p.m. and again on 14317. K8 VKY.
Thank you, Vicki. Should be a lot of fun. The information is on our Facebook page. The flight times was changed. We published it earlier this morning, and more than got it published on Facebook and some of the media outlets, and the flight time changed. So we're doing the best we can. It's kind of early, but if you're there, Roger's going to be there, and we'll see how it goes. Any of other system team members have anything that they would like to report this evening? What do you got for us this evening? Good evening, Joe, KD2 TFB.
Hello, everyone on net. I guess if I need a radio check, I go to one of our local popular repeaters, the Barra system on 444. Usually there's someone hanging around that can tell me if my radio's working or not. And of course, as you mentioned before, have the celebrity call sign of the week. Thanks go for the tip to Newham's info site. And like many of these episodes, the primary source of information was the English language Wikipedia, and therefore is subject to the Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 4.0 license. And there's the attribution. Art was born in Manhattan, New York on August 31st, 1903, to parents Arthur and Catherine. He was the oldest of 5 children. At the age of 12, Art and his family moved to Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. He only completed 1 year at Hasbrook Heights High School. At the age of 14, he left his family to ease their finances. Guess it was a different time back then, where you could really make it in the world and leave your house at only 14. A year later, he was a civilian typist at Camp Merritt, New Jersey. When he was 17, Art lied about his age and enlisted in the United States Navy, serving from 1920 to 1924 as a radio operator on naval destroyers. Just so I don't time out any repeaters, I'm going to let it drop and come back to you really shortly. He left the Navy to care for his family after his father's death. Art gained additional radio training during his service in the Coast Guard from 1927 to 1930. On leaving the Coast Guard, Art became a radio announcer for Baltimore station WFBR, then moved to Washington, D.C. to become a staff announcer for NBC-owned station WRC the same year. He remained there until 1934. While recovering from a near-fatal automobile accident en route to a flying lesson in 1931, he decided to listen closely to the radio and realized that the stiff formal style then used by announcers could not connect with the average radio listener. The announcers spoke as if giving a formal speech to a crowd and not communicating on a personal level. In addition to announcing, Art sang and played the ukulele. In 1934, he became a freelance entertainer, but eventually based himself on a daily show titled Sundial on CBS-owned station WJSV in Washington, which later became WTOP and is now known as WFED. He was the station's morning disc jockey, playing records, delivering commercials, interviewing guests, and even reading news reports during his three-hour shift. And once again, I don't want to time things out, so I'll be right back. Art was eager to remain connected with the Navy, but found his hip injuries rendered him unsuitable for military service. He knew President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who listened to his Washington program, and through Roosevelt's intercession, he received a commission in the United States Naval Reserve before the Second World War. These are some of the more interesting tidbits on Art's Wikipedia page. You can certainly find out a lot more there. This week's Celebrity Call Sign of the Week is Kilo 4 Lima India Bravo, or K4LIB, which belonged to Arthur Godfrey. He began to suffer from emphysema, thought to have been caused by of smoking and the radiation treatments for his lung cancer. He became a silent key from it at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan on March 16, 1983, at the age of 79er. Kilo Delta 2 Tango Fox Bravo, back to net control.
Well, thank you, Joe. I knew he was a ham. I of course was a ham when he was a ham, but I never worked him. You know, I think we talked like some of them, like Barry Goldwater, people like that were on very frequent. I don't know how often he was on, but I never had the pleasure of working him. So thank you, Joe. As we move along here, let's see who we have that has never checked into this net before. For those of you that are new to us this week, we always take a standby for new stations that have never checked into this net. So if you don't think you've ever checked in, give us your call sign twice, and we'll add you to our list and get you up at the top of the list.
Kilo 7, Zulu Tango Zulu, Kilo 7, Zulu Tango Zulu.
Eugene, Oregon, good evening, KK7ZTZ. Welcome aboard. Kilo Quebec 4, Lima Echo Echo. KQ4LEE. Our database says that you have been in here before, so I'll have to ask you to come back when we get to the 4th call district. Let me give it up to Robert, KK4ZTZ. Robert, good evening to you, and our question tonight is, where do you go to do your radio checks?
KK7, CGZ, good evening to you as well. Generally, I just go to my local repeater for the local ham club, so nothing terribly exciting, just checking in there. There's usually someone listening, so works out quite well. KK7, CGZ, back to that.
Robert, we do want to stress that I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 feeds on our website, eastcoastreflector.com. One's delayed by 3 minutes and one is real time. So we provide that service, and a lot of people come on during the day, which is nothing wrong with it, and ask for radio checks, but they can also hear themselves by going and using the website. Just come in and say, I'm going to do a test, and no reply necessary, and then you'll hear yourself come back. Who else do I have? Stations that have never been into this net before.
KD5DMB, Kilo Delta 5 Delta Mexico Bravo.
Well, Voice of Spring, Texas. Good evening, KD5DMB. Aaron, where do you go for your radio checks? Good evening to you.
I work in the Heights, and I spend a lot of time on the Crossroads network.
All right. Thank you for being here tonight. Welcome to the East Coast Reflector TECH Net. Who else do I have? Stations that have never been in on this net before.
Kilo Charlie 2, Delta Juliet. Kilo Charlie 2, Delta Juliet. Name is Bob.
Well, hi, Bob. You as well come up red on our log sheet here, so indicating that you have been in here before. We'll say good evening to you and ask you to come in when we do the second call district down the line, KC2. DJ, thanks for trying anyway. I know you can't remember, but our database doesn't lie. And to be fair for everyone. Last call. Anybody else that's new to this net would like to get in at the top of the net before we go to stations with a question? Hearing nothing but 1488 IRLP node keying up. Let's go to stations with an amateur radio related question. If you have an amateur radio related question, please come now. We'll try to find an answer for you. This is Dick, WB2JPQ. God, this could be a real short night tonight.
BB with a question.
Maybe everybody... I'm sorry, I doubled with somebody from AG5BB. That station, go ahead on AG5BB. Well, I was saying there, saying to Scott, it could be a real short net tonight if we don't have any stations, excuse me, with a question. I mentioned I don't think Charles is here tonight, must have scared everybody off. Stations with an amateur radio related questions.
AG5BB question.
Hey, Bobby. Go right ahead, sir. Good evening.
Something just, always intrigued me about ham radio. We've got so many different bands, and we got this VOIP stuff, and let me turn that off. Got all kinds of doodads, but, one thing that I've often pondered, Dick, is, In the case of a national disaster, nuclear holocaust or whatever, may happen, I was just curious, and maybe some other people could chime in, or maybe you could put this out there on use this on one of your other nets, but what would be, you think, would be the general consensus of where would all the hams get together to converse? What band, what frequency, what mode, etc.?
Well, that's a good question, Bobby. I'm sure some of the disaster preparedness teams have probably played this out, but I haven't. I guess I never really thought about it, but I guess, locally, if I was local, I'd probably go to 146.5 too. If I was on the air, could, there's probably designated spots on HF. But let's put it out. That's a good question. And it's nice to hear you, Bobby. Let's put it out. Anybody, this nice discussion here tonight, maybe on Bobby's question. Who would like to comment?
KE7K.
We were just discussing in the Zoom room, Kevin, a nuclear holocaust. That's like the morning brew from 7 to 9 every day. But what's your take?
Hey, good evening, Dick. KE7K. Well, I'd say two things. For the HF bands, kind of know your calling frequencies, because they're set up for a reason to be able to find other people, and that's where people will center their communications theoretically in a disaster. They'd be going to that place where the most people know the frequency. And then other than that, just get involved with your local emergency groups, and they're gonna have some. It's probably still the national calling frequency, 14652 or 440, whatever it is on UHF 446.000. But they may have local repeaters. So for those shortwave communications that you're doing locally, you're going to have to talk to local groups to see where everybody's going to congregate. But otherwise, longer frequencies, look for the national agreed upon calling frequencies. KE7K.
Very well said, Kevin. Well, that's the starter. Who else would like to comment on the question tonight, just for a little discussion, maybe get people warmed up here tonight? Seems like things are slow, and we find that whenever the weather starts getting nice up in the Northeast, our questions dwindle and so forth and so on, but we'll see what we can do here. Who else would like to comment on Bobby's question?
Kilo Foxtrot 4 Alpha Charlie Bravo.
Whiskey 4, Hotel Kilo Lima.
That's you, Steve, in Cumberland Gap. And it was a KF4, the KF4 station only, please.
F4 ACB, Kilo Foxtrot 4 Alpha Charlie Bravo. Steve's neighbor here in Harrogate, about 3 miles away. My comment on that would be to reiterate the nationwide calling stuff. There are also frequencies set aside. I don't know what you could say they're actually set aside, but recognized frequencies on HF, such as the Maritime Net and Intercon Net on 14.300. I think maybe the Hurricane Net is on like 14.265, I believe. And there are a few other frequencies that are set aside for big disasters like that. Don't forget, there could be some CW and some data also going on.
and I'm kind of clueless when it comes to the frequencies there. But there should be a plethora of places for people to meet. I would think that 146520 would be the first choice locally.
Well, thank you, Terry. And we got Steve. I'm going to go to Steve, but there also was the third station that had called in that I think we missed. If you called in and doubled with the threesome there, try to get in here again, would you please?
Been me, W2PNR, Steve, just listening.
All right, Steve. Well, we don't charge for listening. We won't put you down if you don't have a comment. Hey, good evening, Steve. W4HKL.
Well, good evening, Dick. Everyone on the net. One place like Terry was talking about would be to go to HF. There's designated ARRL traffic nets. A lot of states have them, and sometimes they're just informal state nets. I know Kentucky has a Kentucky Morning Net. Tennessee has Tennessee Phone Net on 3980. Also later, at least on Eastern Time, Wisconsin Phone Net is on the same frequency. So there are statewide nets that are used to pass emergency and just routine traffic, and those would be also some places you could try to look on in a regional area. As far as your local stuff, that would just be your local Aries, Races type nets and whatever frequencies, repeaters, and stuff like that you've all agreed upon. Back to net, W4HKL.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Terry and Kevin. Well, there's some comments, Bobby. I don't know if that's what you were looking for. I guess it was just a question, and I guess I would have gone to the same as, the 14300 and 52 and 4652 and some of the others as well. So, thanks for the question, Bobby, and good to hear you on the system. Hope things are slowing down for you so you can spend a little time with us out here on the East Coast Reflector.
Yeah, I'm just traveling home here. We got a little rain showered on here going to the house, but I was aware of Aries and National Simplex and stuff like that, but I just still a lot of options up there, but I guess many options are better than one option, so it would be it would be kind of I think it would be a good thing if they had a national HF emergency frequency, that if you wanted to know who was left out there, everybody could go to a certain frequency, but anyway, yeah, lots of options out there for sure, but anyway, it was a good conversation piece anyway, so Dick, everybody, appreciate it, and y'all have a good evening. 73's Alpha Golf 5, Bravo, Bravo.
And Joe just popped out of the Zoom room and says, "That sounds like Bobby." So you better get into the Zoom room soon and say hello to us. Obviously, we don't talk during the nets while we're running nets, but jump in, Bob, and say hello. Stations with an amateur radio-related question or a conversation piece like Bobby had. Call signs twice. This is Dick, WB2JPQ at 30 past the hour.
W2RBC, W2RBC.
KC3VNT.
KC3VNP.
C3VNP. Looks like you're new, Lawrence, to the system. Welcome. And Randy, W2RC, RBC. Good evening, Randy. Go right ahead.
Sorry, Dick, I had to wait for an ID. Just a couple questions on that frequency question that just came about. One note that very few people are not aware of, very few non-military organizations ever think of electromagnetic pulse, EMP. Almost all ham devices would be destroyed by a nuclear detonation, whether it's high or low altitude. Even if you're hundreds of miles away, or even if you're not connected to an antenna, the EMP is most likely to cause some damage to the front end of most radios. Even tube radios have issues because the EMP pulses are so large. Okay, that's about it. W2 RBC.
Where's Randy in the Zoom? I guess you had your speaker up and heard me. I forgot. I didn't realize you were in the Zoom. But you're right. We went to an EMP exercise, oh my gosh, probably 15 years ago. I think it was put on by the county or state. It was a 2-day affair up here, and we sat through a lot of presentations and drills and so forth. It was kind of a fun project. Anybody else have a comment or an amateur radio related question?
I4RAY with a question.
Yes.
November 2, Victor, Papa Juliet.
I'm sorry, I forgot Lawrence in here, KC3VNP. You guys are quicking and not giving your call signs twice. To Papa Juliet Station, if you'd give us your call sign twice. We missed the letter in there, please.
November 2, Victor, Papa Juliet, hello Dick, and it's November 2, Papa Juliet.
Bob, I thought I recognized your voice. Can you double the station that ended in a Yankee? The 4 question mark Yankee, please.
4, Romeo Alpha Yankee with a question.
I think that's KI4RAY Ray with a question. Let me go up to Lawrence. My apologies, Lawrence. I scrolled up here and I moved you right off of my screen. KC3VMP. Good evening.
Good evening, Dick. This is KC3VNP. I am on Echolink. I found you on Echolink, and I am in the state of Maryland, near just south of Baltimore. Been a ham for about 4 years, and part of the Aries Racing Network up here. I was just kind of like surfing the Echolink and to see what kind of nets were on, and happy to find this one. As far as the EMPs, that's something that my wife is really nervous about. She talks about it a lot. I'm not sure how much mitigation we can really do for that. I just think about wrapping everything up in a, well, isn't there a, there's a kind of a box or a bag of put things in to prevent magnetic radiation or something like that. A Faraday bag. Yeah, would that? I wonder if that would mitigate that. KC3BNP, back to net.
By no means am I an expert, but I would say it would. We got Lawrence. Do you go by Larry, or do you want me to leave Lawrence in, seeing it's your first time check-in here?
Yeah, I prefer Larry. Lawrence is just, the business name. My friends call me Larry. If you call me Lawrence, then you're a stranger. KC3BNP.
He's got Larry in there, so you will be known as Larry here. And yeah, we get all of our, as soon as your call sign goes on our log sheets, it comes right up. I didn't mention this, but you can also follow us for new people that are checking in here tonight. You can also follow along on this net or any of our nets on the fetch log that we have. Easiest way is to go to the website, eastcoastreflector.com. Go to nets, select the net you want to follow along on. There's a little box here to check, and you can view the logs. But yeah, that's all good, Larry. I like we were kidding around here earlier about your old microwave. I would probably do it. Faraday cages and so forth. If they're sealed, there's good Faraday cages and there's bad Faraday cages. And in screen rooms, we used to have a screen room at work, and you had to test it every once in a while and make absolutely sure that it truly was a screen room. Sometimes, something would happen between the outer and the inner, and you'd have a little short. We always ended up testing it, and then you had to go and find out where that short was. Thanks for your comment, Larry, and welcome. Yeah, this is the East Coast Reflector TECH Net. We just celebrated our 12th anniversary last week, so we're on our way to 13 years here. EastCoastReflector.com is what you're on. Ray, good evening to you. KI4RAY.
Good evening to you, Dick, and to everyone else on the net. Yeah, I guess my question was partially answered by the previous caller there regarding Faraday bags and cages as some kind of protection. At least put some HTs in that kind of a situation, protect against that potential situation. And the other thing about the previous topic, I'm a new ham, just got my ticket in December, and, I don't have HF yet. I'm planning on it, working on it. Actually have a bid on HF rig on eBay right now. But what I was thinking was a lot of the local repeaters in my area, I'm in the greater Knoxville area in Tennessee, and a lot of the repeaters have battery and generator backup. I know that wouldn't last forever in a national disaster, but at least give you some time to be able to get your bearings with folks within 50 to 60 to 70 miles. Back to net.
Hey, Ray, and I don't know how long you've been a ham, but welcome to Amateur Radio. You have been on the system here before. You did not come up as new, so thanks for being there. Let's go to Bob in Tonawanda, New York, N2VPJ. Bob, your comment or question?
Yeah, N2VPJ. I am mobile, so I hope I'm making a system here. My comment is that if we're going to, and by the way, everybody, hello. I didn't want to forget that either. My comment basically is, you would, being out in the field, you had something like that happen, it would be a terrible thing. But do we have, people that would go to, fallout shelters as centers, so that we could actually be able...
Bob, you cut right out there instantly. That didn't sound good. The question was, I can't answer that. I've been away from it for so long, I honestly don't know. I know back in the 60s, one of the local clubs here in Western New York, I know you're Western New York, but we used to meet in a bunker. So back in the 60s, we were in 70s, we were late 60s, 70s. I knew the answer to that. Did you come back, Bob? You dropped out kind of abruptly there, like you popped the cork.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Like I said, I am mobile, so it could have been that way. I don't know. All I was going to say is it's a good possibility. I don't know about all the stuff. I know the Aries Races and all that group. Just wondered whether or not we would with someone in a stationary group to direct all traffic through all the different frequencies. That's the basic, the kind of the question I had. Just a pleasure to be here, and like I said, I'm going to be pulling into my parking or.
Yeah, you got something going on there, Bob. You send around 1,000 packets, you drop out. I don't know if it's a timer on your radio or just what, but knock off timer, so maybe you got set a little bit short for probably be about 60 seconds, that would be, so perhaps that's what's going on. But good question, and we don't get into any kind of emergency tests or anything on the East Coast Reflector. We leave that up to all the local authorities, so we really, I don't have the answers, and that's what we're looking for. All right, who else has got a question tonight? Stations with an amateur radio related question. All signs twice. This is Dick, WB2JP.
K4MMX, K4MMX.
Kilo Romeo 4, Delta Romeo Juliet.
Kilo Quebec 4, Golf Whiskey Oscar. Kilo Quebec 4, Golf Whiskey Oscar.
Hang on, William, in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and Ron in Huntsville, Alabama, and let me go to K4MMX. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I discovered a break in my coax that I think somebody accidentally cut or nicked, and it's going to be a major challenge to replace all the coax. So, plus its HUD is, you can't believe down here in Florida, so it's probably going to be one of them fall or winter projects. But in the meantime, for VHF, UHF, mostly concerned about VHF, is would it work if I actually used marine heat shrink and connected the center conductor, insulated that, and then took the braid and kind of wrapped it around it and soldered it, and then another piece of marine heat shrink over that? Would that actually still work, or would it be a major impedance bump?
And put connectors on, even if it was PL259 male and females, or two PL259s with a barrel connector. It's certainly going to be better than doing it, the way that you suggested.
Yeah, it would just be purely temporary, and I'll try to get the spacing right, but to actually, where it's broken, to put two PL259s in a barrel, it wouldn't work out too well. So I guess maybe I can probably pull some new coax and put the 259 barrel thing somewhere else where it won't be buried. So I give that a shot, and I got some of that sealing tape that should work for now. Thanks again, appreciate it. K4MMX, back to net.
Right, yeah, you don't want to do a splice like that. You want to try to keep that impedance the best you can. Good question. Huntsville, Alabama. Ronald, maybe we can shorten you up to Ron if that's okay with you. First time user here on the East Coast Reflector, KR4DRJ. Good evening. And Ron, KR4DRJ, did you have a comment or a question, please? Well, I guess that. We'll mark Ron 1 and done. How about William, Wake Forest, North Carolina, KQ4GWO. Good evening.
Yes, good evening to you, Net Control. Even to everybody out there, this is Kilo Quebec 4. Golf with me, Oscar. William around Wake Forest, North Carolina. I had the opportunity a few days ago to speak to a fellow hammer, and he had an issue. He pretty much set up a hotspot in his home, and him and his friend can communicate in his home with no problem. But once his friends leave the home, they couldn't communicate no more. And the friend lived in the same neighborhood. So I was just wondering if there was anyone out there, maybe had an idea, maybe a few suggestions that I may can pass on to them.
I think we're going to need a little bit more information. A hotspot is not going to do anything for the neighborhood. Unless it was one of these little repeater hotspots or something, low power. But do you have any more information than that? They were both on a radio, and what were they talking into? But we need more information.
To the best of my ability, I think he set up a Raspberry Pi. And they pretty much had it working. I guess they had a couple of HTs or something. They got it working, and within each other in the same house or whatever, they can talk to each other. But once he left his house and went to his house, to the next man's house, then they couldn't talk. In other words, close together it worked, but in the neighborhood it didn't work. So I'm thinking maybe some kind of configuration somewhere that he didn't do right.
Well, my guess is, William, that he had an all-star duplex hotspot, very, very limited range. You know, they advertise, a repeater. Well, it's most of them, that you buy, there are a couple HTs thrown together, and very, very limited range. And I'm suggesting that the gentleman that left the house, he just drove out of range of that hotspot, so-called repeater. Could be wrong, but with the information you gave, I think that's the best we can do.
Okay, thank you, Net Control. What I'm going to try to do, once if I get a chance, the opportunity to speak with the gentleman again, I'll do my best to get a little more information, and the next time I will make sure I have more information to help everybody out a little bit better. Thank you once again. This is Kilo Quebec 4, Golf Whiskey Oscar. I'm clear. 73.
Do that, William. Come back next week, or jump into our Zoom room. Go to eastcoastreflector.com. There's a place there, and we can always help you in there and toy with the idea. And Joe is back in. I don't know if Joe had a question or if it was an answer to your question, William, but let's see what Joe's got. KD2TFP.
Yeah, It all very much depends on what they're operating. I mean, knowing it's a Raspberry Pi isn't saying much. You really have to know about the transmitter. The higher the frequency, the less it's going to be able to penetrate building materials. You'll find this a lot in analogy with Wi-Fi hotspots. The 2.4 gigahertz, for example, penetrates fairly well, although not as well as lower frequencies, but 5 and 6 gigahertz, it has hardly any penetration at all on a lot of building materials. It just depends a lot on, one, what frequency is used, and two, what the exterior walls of the house are made of. Or, I just thought of this, if they have aluminum siding, for example, that's going to do a whole bunch to reflect the radio waves back in. Kilo Delta 2 Tango Fox Bravo, back to net.
Year 0, SPH.
The W0SVH, all right, Henderson, Texas. Yeah, thanks, William. Yeah, we need more information. We can't second guess what he's got going here, but it does sound like a range problem, or maybe they were both on the same network. Maybe they had two Pi. I don't know. But get us some more information, William, and we'll find you an answer. Anderson, Texas. Good evening, W0SVH. Okay.
5, why you in?
KD5YUN. Hang on a minute. I'm looking for W0SVH. Sean in Anderson, Texas. He either had a comment or a question. Sean, go ahead.
We have the wrong mic, guys. Sorry about that. W0SPH.
Go ahead, sir. We're listening. W0SVH. You either had a comment or a question, please.
This is W0SPH. Y'all take it back to the net. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I was looking for comments or questions. How about KD5YUM? Good evening to you. KD5YUN, are you still with me? Well, that's unusual. All right, let's make this last call for stations with an amateur radio related question. Let's do that. Last call for stations with an amateur radio related question.
This is Kilo Charlie 9 India, mobile.
People are using on HF, over.
We got KC9 India, and then somebody tucked over the top of them. Who was the station that said something about HF, and that came in from Huntsville, Alabama?
The Kilo Romeo 4, Delta Romeo Juliet.
All right, Ronald, I didn't recognize you. I was looking for... I looked for everybody but you, but was that a comment on the previous question, or what do you got for us?
Got my VHF UHF set up, but was wanting to try to make a contact with HF, and was wondering if there's any frequencies people tend to propagate on.
It's a pretty tough question. Find somebody, tune the big knob, find somebody and call them. That's the best way. We can't tell you where. I mean, there's tons of nets. There's tons of nets that are going on right now, and as they do every hour on the hour, there's a net for every single thing. But just turn that, spin the big knob, find somebody, and call them around. I think that's the best thing I can tell you. Let me go to Jason, KC9I in Hollywood, Florida. Good evening.
How you doing? I'm about to hit the road, so I wanted to get a radio check. I don't really have any questions, but yeah, I appreciate you coming back to me. I just want to make sure this thing was working. I hadn't turned it on in a little while.
It is. We don't usually do radio checks in the middle of the net, but we'll be glad to tell you sound just fine. Going into the Hollywood 146790 repeater. All right, let's move on. I said Kevin had no swap and shop material tonight. And we're going to go, I'll do a couple here while Scott's away. I think he's away. Let me do a couple here. Let me go to the number 6. We're going to start out on the West Coast tonight. We're going to start out with stations with a 6 in their call sign. We'll get a list started here. Stations with a 6 in their call sign. Give us your call sign twice. This is Dick, WB2JPQ.
Kilo India 6 Whiskey Papa Kilo, KI6WPK. Bill in San Francisco, just hanging out listening.
My buddy Bill, KI6WPK, I'm not going to let you just come in here and say you're listening. I'll make you talk here in just a minute. And we got Mike, K6AAN in Valley Springs, California. Good evening to you, Mike. And our question tonight is, where do you go to do your radio checks? Kind of an open-ended question. Good evening.
Well, good evening, Dick, and everybody on the net. Well, it depends on what radios we're talking about, but UHF, EHF, I've got a local repeater around here that's real strong. We use that a lot. And club members, we all use a simplex frequency as the input of the repeater, so everyone has that programmed in the radio, so we use that for testing too. For HF, I usually take a look at the conditions and then call someone that I know that has HF and schedule a contact. That way we can really hear what's going on. For All-Star, 55550 Parrot. That thing is really something. Gives you your own little audio report and works real well. So back to you. This is K6AAN.
K4MMX comment.
We don't usually take comments here in the middle of the net. We're going through call districts here. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for being here. And yep, 5553. That's a good one. If you own your own All-Star note. Many times throughout the course of the day, people will come in and somebody will say to them, hey, go to the parent node. Well, they don't control. Their name might be on a repeater, and of course they don't control the repeaters, so they cannot go to any test servers. So that's why we provide it on the East Coast. How is Bill? KI6WPK. Bill, good evening to you.
Well, good evening to you. Good evening to the net. I only use All-Star, and so I go to the 55550, which is a good parrot if I want to hear quality of my audio and signal and all that. And I'm in the kitchen frying some chicken, so I'll better get back to listening here and say have a good week, everybody.
getting ready for breakfast here on the East Coast, Bill, so hurry up and catch up with us. Call out stations with a 7 in your call sign, number 7. Anybody out there with a 7 in their call sign? C.
7 EJM, Kalispell, Montana.
Alrighty, we'll hold it up there for just a moment. This is W2BLT back at the helm. That last station coming in from out west there, AJM, could you give me that whole call sign again, please, twice?
W7EJ, Whiskey 7, Echo Juliet Mike. TTH is Kalispell, Montana.
Alrighty, we got you, Edwin. We had KK7OGC, Fred, and KK7ZTZ, Robert in Eugene, Oregon, via the text. Anyone else with a 7 in your call sign, please come now. With nothing heard, the question of the evening is, where do you go to do your radio checks? Let's go to KK7ZTZ. Robert out in Eugene, Oregon. Looks like you're new to the system. Welcome. KK7ZTZ, Robert in Eugene, Oregon. Are you still with us via the text there? Nothing heard. Let's go to KK7OGC, Fred in Reno, Nevada. Good evening, Fred.
Good evening, Dick and everyone else on the net, and thank you for logging, Vicky. For All-Star, yeah, I'll do either 55, 55.3, or for UHF, VHF, depending on which radio. I'll call out for a radio check on one of the local repeaters. Someone's always listening on that one, but anyway, KK7OGC, back to net.
All right, thanks for joining us, Fred. We appreciate it. Next up, W7EJM, Edwin in Kalispell, Montana. Good evening, Edwin, and welcome to the system. And where do you normally go do your radio checks?
Everybody on the net, this is Ed, Kalispell, Montana, and yeah, well, you'd be a good place for a radio check, I think, and but maybe not with the questions you do each night. This is very interesting to me. First time I've done this IRLP. Anyway, on high frequencies, I'm fortunate that a guy's got a server set up here 20 miles from my location, so I can hear myself and, on the high frequencies. And then I use the repeaters and talk to people to get a report locally on VHF, UHF. Thank you again, W7EJM. I'm mobile, so I lost you there.
Appreciate you joining us on Don't Be a Stranger. We're here every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
Okay, that brings us up to the 8s. Via the text, we have KA8BYU and W8CRW. Who else do we have with an 8 in your call sign? Please come now.
OAY, November 8, Oscar Alpha Yankee, Dave, Huntsville, Alabama.
Alpha Delta 8, Mike Juliet. Alpha Delta 8, Mike Juliet, Allen in Northeast Ohio.
Alrighty, recognizing 88MJ and 8N8OAY. David. Let's go up to the top of this list. KA8BYU. Good evening, Roy, and where do you go to do your radio checks? KA8BYU. Roy, are you with me? Somebody must have come to his door. We'll just mark him in and out tonight. W8CRW, CR down in Unionville, Pennsylvania. Good evening.
Good evening, Dick, and all on the net. I'm mostly a 2-meter guy, so there's a local repeater if I have a question. How's my signal doing? And that's what I mostly use. Back to net, 73 to all.
All right, thanks, CR. Appreciate you joining us and have a great evening. N8OAY, David in Huntsville, Alabama. Good evening.
Thank you, everyone, for running this net. Got a local repeater here that has a function that can play back radio checks, and I have used a tape recorder set up in a room out of microphone range, so don't give myself feedback. N8OAY, back to that.
Very good. Sounds like you got things well in hand. Thanks for joining us, David, and have a good evening. And last on this list, AD8MJ Allen up in Warren, Ohio. Good evening.
Good evening there, Scott. 88MJ. Nice to speak with you again. For the local repeaters, I'll use for the VHF, UHF, and the simplex. I got a simplex frequency you can use for that too. Use quite often on that. And HF, if I have to go and do HF on there, I'll use web SDR sometimes. Do that, just call out and see what happens. So that's about all I got there. Nice to talk to you again. 7-3 everyone. Back to you there, Scott WB2 BLT from 88MJ.
Well, thank you, Alan, and I have a soft spot in the heart for Warren, Ohio. As a youngster, spent many summers down there. Always a good time. All right, this is W2BLT on to the 9s. If you have a 9 in your call sign, please come now.
This is 9 Yankee 4 Delta X-ray. 9Y4DX Bertrand.
Alrighty, and as sometimes happens, we have 9Y4DX Bertrand down in Trinidad and Tobago.
are only 9 tonight. Good evening, Bertrand, and where do you usually go when you need a radio check?
Yeah, I'm in California, and I'm usually online.
Well, a pleasant evening to you, Net Control. This is 9Y4DX, Bertrand. My location, Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Well, let me share with you that Trinidad and Tobago at this time is under yellow alert because of some high winds, and we've been having rain since this morning. It has held up for just a short while, but we're expecting further showers as we go through the night into tomorrow until 4 p.m. Well, with respect to the question at hand, I have one of our amateur radio operators here in Trinidad, and we usually would call him and get advice as what to do with our radios, and he would also give us a radio check and stuff like that. So that's it from me. Back to you, Net Control. This is 9Y4 TX.
Alrighty. Thank you very much, Bertrand. Always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. You have yourself a great week. Alrighty, on to the zeros. If you have a 0 in your call sign, please come now. F0,
W0 SBH.
F0, FYV.
Whiskey 0, Sierra Victor Hotel. Sean in Anderson.
Already we have N0 MSS Ross via the text line. We had W0SVH Sean, and I think we had a station in there that sounded like KF0FYZ. Is that correct? Is this Wesley? F0SYV, KF0SYV, Galen. We got you that time, Galen, thanks. Anyone else with a 0 in your call sign, please come now. Well, with nothing heard, let's go to the top of this list here. N0 MSS Ross in Wahpeton, North Dakota. Good evening, Ross. And question of the evening is, where do you go to do your radio checks?
Good evening, Scott, and everybody on the net. Well, to do a true radio check, I usually take my radio into work and put it on the bench and use a service monitor. And if I'm not near work or something like that, I'll use whatever method I can. If I'm on the local repeater, ask for a check there, or on the Reflector or wherever. So whatever system I'm on, that's where I would check it out at. And sometimes you can just grab another radio and listen to yourself, or something similar to that. So anyway, local repeater sounds good. N0 MSS.
Thank you, Ross. Have yourself a great evening, and thanks for joining us. Next up, KF0SYV, Galen in Woodbine, Iowa. Good evening.
Good evening, Scott, and everyone on the net. I'm lucky enough to have a repeater not too far away. I don't know, probably 17 miles or so. It has a talkback feature on it. I use that some if I need to. Otherwise, to get a hold of some friends or somebody that I can talk to and check, see how the radio's doing. That's pretty much how I do it. I don't know if it's right or not, but that's what I do. So, thank you much. You all have a good evening. 7-3s, back to the net.
Hey, thanks, Galen. Appreciate you joining us. Have a great evening. Last on this list, W0 SVH, Sean in Anderson, Texas. Good evening, Sean, and where do you go to do your radio checks?
Well, good evening. Thank you for holding the net, and sorry for interrupting earlier. I grabbed the wrong mic on the VFO. This is W0SPH, Sean over here in Anderson, Texas, and when I originally set up all my nodes, repeaters and all, use a service monitor. So now, usually what I do is I'll listen when I key up on one repeater, and I'll listen on the other repeater to make sure my audio is still good. And that's how I check my system. Back to you, net control, W0SPH.
Alrighty, thank you, Sean. Local repeater it is. You have yourself a great evening, and appreciate you joining us. Alrighty, I'm going to turn it over to Jason, K4KU, way down in Atlanta, Georgia, and he'll take you through the next 3 call districts, and then I'll come back and finish out the night here. So with that, this is W2 BLT. It's all yours, Jason.
Hey, thanks, Scott, and everybody on the TechNet tonight. This is Jason, K4KU, and we are looking for call signs in call district number 1. So if your call sign has a 1 in it, please come with your call sign twice and slowly.
This is November Juliet 1 Sierra, Norway, Japan 1 Sierra, NJ1S, Eric in Shelburne, Vermont. Over.
November 1 Whiskey Echo Bravo N1 WEB.
All right, we picked up N1WEB and NJ1S. Are there any other call signs in the 1 district? Any other call signs for the 1? Come twice and slowly. All right, hearing none, we'll go to the top of this list. We'll go to Eric in Shelburne, Vermont, N1JS. Eric, what do you do for your radio checks? Where do you go?
Good evening to you, Jason, and Scott, as well as Dick and the rest on the TechNet here, the 9050 TechNet. This is Eric in Shelburne, Vermont, where if I can't do a radio check on my own, or I feel that my transceivers, whether it's one or another, have any issues, I've got a ham friend that is also a technician who, and I don't mean a tech license, a technician license class. I mean, he's a tech, a repair individual. So I typically throw him a few dollars and get it repaired cheaper than I can through the company's direct. But plenty of repeaters in the area, certainly everything from digital to analog. Back over to you, Jason. Have a great night. 7-3 from NJ1S in Shelburne, Vermont. Over.
Hey, Eric, thanks for representing the 1s tonight. And you know what? As a tech guy myself, I appreciate folks that are generous with their dollars. So thank you so much. Now we'll go to N1WEB Webb in Collierville, Tennessee. What do you do for your radio checks?
Thank you, Jason. Good evening to the net. Good question. UHF, VHF, I'll use local repeaters. And for HF, I would probably go to like 14.300 or something like that, or just throw out a CQ for HF. As far as All-Star, I'll use a parrot for that. For D-Star, I'll use the D-Star information command to pull back a response from a repeater. And I guess that's about it. N1 WEB, back to the net.
All right, Webb, thanks so much for that. And that brings us to the 2 call district. So if you have a 2 in your call sign, come with your call sign twice and slowly, please.
Kilo 2 Delta Yankee, VK2DY.
Whiskey Alpha 2 Kilo Juliet Charlie. Whiskey Alpha 2 Kilo Juliet Charlie.
N2BH. N2BH.
This is KD2YUY, Kilo Delta 2, Yankee Uniform Yankee. November 2, Zulu Victor November, N2ZVN.
All right, let's hold it up here for just a moment. Let me acknowledge who we've got. We picked up N2ZVN, KD2YUY, N2BH, WA2KJC, KD2VNU, W2RBC, VK2DY, and W2AJR. And KD2JPP, Bob in Gatlin, Tennessee. And Bob, you're at the top of the list, so we'll come to you for now. Where do you go for your radio checks?
Hey, good evening, Jason, everybody else on the net from Gallatin, Tennessee. As far as this question, I use the ECR, usually later at night when there's not a lot of traffic. I'll make a transmission, no response needed, and I'll just listen back to the audio. So that's what I do. Everybody stay safe, have a great week, and back to net control.
Hey, thanks, Bob. Yeah, that's a Listen Live feature, or the one with the minute-and-a-half delay, or part of my favorite features that we have on Listen Live. So that brings us to Andy, W2AJR in Cheektowaga, New York. Andy, where do you go for your radio checks?
Everybody on the net, usually fire up an SDR, or several SDRs, and I can kill a couple of birds with one stone that way. They can kind of... And also...
Andy, the last part of that was kind of covered up by noise, but we did hear the SDR, so I think that's a great suggestion. And that brings us to Robert, VK2DY, in Kilo Ridge.
Good morning, this is Robert, Victor Kilo 2 Delta Yankee in Cellular Ridge, New South Wales, where it is currently about 15 degrees, about 60 Fahrenheit. We're in winter temperatures here. We got down almost freezing last night, which is about as cold as it ever gets. Anyway, well, for HF, I usually use web SDRs that are available out there, and for the digital modes, it's really quite easy because you can listen on another device. I have multiple ways of listening to digital transmission. So transmit on one and listen on another, and hook to a talk group or a room and listen, and you can hear yourself. The VK2DY. Back to.
All right, Robert, thanks for checking in tonight from New South Wales, and that brings us to W2 RBC Randy, one of our team members. Randy, what do you do or where do you go for your radio checks?
When on the TECH Net, I always try to do all my RF radio checks using test equipment. If I want to do live online testing, I would try to contact a friend. And also welcome to the team Jason, back to Net Control, 73 to all, W2 RBC.
Hey, thanks, Randy. Sometime I'll have an offline conversation with you about your test equipment. That sounds pretty interesting. And that brings us to Derby Dan, KD2VNU, another team member.
Good evening and welcome. And I use the Parrot for the All-Star, and I use the Reflector for hearing my audio here. And or I'll use a scanner or something like that. But if you don't play with the equipment, it shouldn't change. Too many people tinker, and there's lots of bad audio out here, but it is getting better from time to time. But I think people need to listen to the ECR playback and really hear what they sound like, because that's the best way. KD2VNU, return it back to Net.
Hey, I appreciate that, Dan. And you know what? I think the trick with that Parrot node is to make sure you disconnect it before you reconnect to the ECR. Otherwise, things get very interesting. And that brings us to Dave, WA2KJC. Dave, what do you do for radio checks?
Good evening to everyone on the net. Initially, I use my service monitor, and then on occasion, I will log in with my laptop to my Raspberry Pi ham VoIP node on my repeater. Oh, there's a key up. I use IAX RPT with my laptop because it has a green VU bar, and I'll run the Parrot mode on the ham VoIP and check the audio now and then just to see what the level looks like. So that way you know everything's sounding good. So back to you, WA2KJC.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate you. And that brings us to N2BH Bill, another one of our team members.
Good evening, Jason. For DMR digital, I usually try one of the Parrots, and for local stuff, just try one of the local repeaters, and HF, just throw it out there and wait for some feedback. N2BH.
All right, Bill, one thing about our East Coast Reflector folks is typically if your audio is bad, someone's going to tell you at some point. So feedback from the team is also great. Listen, that brings us to KD2YUY, Charles in Syracuse, New York. Charles, where do you go for your radio checks?
Good evening, sir. And by the way, you're sounding good. He has been mentioning there's one thing that I've done that I haven't heard mentioned. I've got an app. Well, it's not really an app. It's a website that I use on my phone, Kiwi SDR, and it's a list, and it actually is a map all over the world of SDRs that you can listen on AF, and you can program it to what frequency you're using, and in real time you can hear how you're making it to different places, how you sound, what the propagation is like. So the Kiwi SDR. 73L, back to Net Control, KD2YUY.
Hey, Charles, I appreciate the audio report there, and I think that, yeah, you're actually, I believe the third person that's recommended that SDR this evening, so we'll definitely add that to the list here. That brings us to Alan, N2ZBN from Kimball, New York. Alan, where do you do or go to do your radio checks?
Good evening, Jason, and everyone on the net tonight. I'll typically put it on a service monitor,
And if it's an All-Star radio, I'll use parrot mode. So that pretty much does things for me. I rely on comments too. And 2ZVN, back to that.
All right, thanks so much, Alan. We appreciate you. Look forward to you checking in again next week. And that brings us to Kevin, VE3BZ, our team member in Canada.
Good evening, Jason, and everyone on the net. This is VE3BZ in Victoria Harbour, Ontario, and radio checks. I rarely do radio checks. I believe if something's wrong, someone will tell me, but the only time I actually do any, quote, radio checks is when I put a new node online. I'll use the parrot. Anyway, thanks for being there, Jason. Back to you, VE3BZ.
Hey, Kevin, you might not do a ton of radio checks, but I sure have heard you answer quite a few of them late in the evening, so we appreciate you and everything you do in the evening hours for the team. And that brings us to the end of the list, and we'll do a final call for any call signs in the 2 call district. If you have a 2 in your call district, come twice and slowly, please.
Kilo Echo 2, Golf Charlie Victor. Kilo Echo 2, Golf Charlie Victor.
W2KJV, W2KJV.
Kilo Oscar 4, Foxtrot Bravo Mike. Kilo Oscar 4, Foxtrot Bravo Mike. In and out, I'll be listening. Thank you.
All right, we picked up W2KJV and KE2GCV, and the top of the list is Garrett, KE2GCV. Garrett, tell us, how do you do your radio checks?
I'm new to the ham team, so I've just been getting on the local repeaters, checking my programming, checking the quality of the sound of the radios. Everybody's been really helpful so far. I can't really complain. It's been getting good pointers and tips, so I've been trying to put it all together.
Well, Garrett, welcome to the hobby, and if you haven't investigated the Listen Live feature of the East Coast Reflector yet, I highly recommend it. You can go to that page and actually hear how you sound through the system. And that brings us to Tony, W2KJV in Homosassa, Florida.
Good evening, Jason and everyone on the Tech Net tonight. Tony here in Homosassa. For UHF, VHF, I normally just do in-house testing, maybe listen on another HT or another one of my All-Star nodes. And I do have one outside solar node that I got in the habit of checking it quite often. Every time I fire it up, I go to that 55553 and check the audio. I had trouble with it when I first put it up a couple of years ago. I ended up changing the transceiver on it. But that's my story. There, Jason, back to you. This is W2KJB.
Hey, Tony, thank you for joining tonight and for finishing out the 2 call district. And now that will bring us to call district number 3. If you are in the 3 call district, come with your call sign twice and slowly, please.
WB3GTM, Whiskey Baker 3, Golf Tango Mike.
N3 DRB. All right, we picked up N3DRB, VE3IQU, and W3GTM. Are there any other call signs in the 3 call district? Come twice and slowly, please. Hearing none, we'll go to the top of the list. WB3GTM, Mike in Westford, Vermont. What do you do for radio checks, Mike?
Good evening, Jason. Good evening to everybody on the net. This is Mike, WB3GTM. Doing a great job there, Jason. In the digital modes, I'll do pairs and or echo tests. Otherwise, I may ask feedback and or use another radio and listen to myself. I do find it amazing a lot of times, at least particularly on the digital modes, I hear people giving other people feedback on their audio, and I swear they do not hear the same thing that I hear. So I like to listen to myself and double check. Hey, thanks for running a net. Thanks for checking me in. 7-3, I'm back to net control. This is WB3GTM.
Mike, you just underscored why I like using the Listen Live feature, because I like to hear my own audio, because if I put out a radio check, I'll get 4 different opinions on how my audio sounds, and so it's a lot easier to listen to it myself. Anyway, that brings us to VE3IQU, Reg in Brampton, Ontario, Canada.
Very good evening, Scott, and everybody around the net tonight from Brampton. Really enjoying the net tonight. Some of the answers have been interesting. Anyhow, the wife and I are okay, and enjoying summer. Well, it's almost summer, 10 days away or so. And but the day was quite nice. Temperatures were comfortable, not hot, but comfortable. Anyhow, as for the question, well, normally I will look for an opinion of other people on air. Sometimes I will do it in the way some of the others have mentioned, by listening to my own audio, see what I think of it. Maybe that's important too. Anyhow, that's about the size of it, and we'll send it back to you, and hope everybody out there, including Dick, is enjoying the beginnings, the very, very early beginnings of summer. V3IQU.
Hey, well, Reg, we appreciate the check-in. I'm also honored that you called me Scott, but this is Jason. Scott will be back in just a few minutes here, and thanks for checking in with us. This brings us to, let's double-check this call sign. We have N3DRB. David, is that the correct call sign, N3DRB?
USL net control, N3DRB, November 3, Delta Romeo Bravo.
David, well, go ahead and tell us, where do you go to do your radio checks?
Control, do you copy November 3, Delta Romeo Bravo?
Yeah, November 3, Delta Romeo Bravo, we copy you loud and clear. This is K4KU, and tell us, the question of the night is, where do you go to do your radio checks?
Well, most appropriate. So I have a brand new portable radio that I'm speaking to you with tonight. Just got done programming it and did a search function, and your repeater came up, and I heard your question. So really what I'm doing tonight, right now, is one big radio check. This is N3DRB, and we are in Export, Pennsylvania.
Well, David, welcome to the system. We do show that you're a new user as well. This is the East Coast Reflector, and because you are new, we'll actually send a welcome letter out to you to the address that's on file with QRZ, and they'll give you all the information about the East Coast Reflector. You're doing pretty good with that HT. Sounds like you've got it programmed. You did have a little bit of static there, but that might just be a function of distance from where you are from your repeater. But other than that, welcome to the system, and that brings us to the end of the threes here. So I'm going to turn it back over to Scott, W2BLT, who will finish out the rest of the net.
Alrighty, thank you, Jason. Appreciate the help tonight. This is W2BLT. We're going to move on to the fours. Via the, we already have KO4FBM, Jose. Who else do we have with a 4 in your call sign? Please come with your call sign twice and slowly.
4 RY Kilo India 4
LNZ Kilo Quebec 4 Lima November. This is Landon from Pulaski County, Kentucky.
Kilo Foxtrot 4 Alpha Charlie Bravo. Kilo Foxtrot 4 Alpha Charlie Bravo. Second time checking in.
KO4FRR, KO4FRR. W4FWN, W4 Foxtrot Whiskey November.
Alright, let's hold it up there for just a minute. I know we missed a couple. That last one there, the FWN, could you come back with that again, please?
This is W4FWN, W4 Foxtrot Whiskey November.
Alrighty, we got you, Dan. We had AC4BR Brian. We had KO4FRR Joe. We had KF4ACB Terry. And Harrogate, Tennessee. And who else do we have with a 4? I know I missed a couple in there. Could you come back again if I didn't recognize you, please?
Net Control, please acknowledge KQ4 LNZ Kilo Quebec 4 Lima November Zulu. I called there the first time. I don't know if you got me in there or not.
Quebec 4 Foxtrot Hotel Echo. Quebec 4 Foxtrot Hotel Echo. Pat and Harvest.
And K4 Fox X-Ray Charlie, K4 FXC.
Kilo Mike 4 Tango Charlie, Kilo Mike 4 Tango Charlie.
Alrighty, let me acknowledge who we have here. From the bottom up, we had KM4, TC, Terry, K4, FXD, David, KQ4, FHE, Pat, KQ4, LNZ, Landon, and I acknowledge the rest. Let's go to the top of this list. Question of the evening is, where do you go to do your radio checks? Let's go to KO4 FBM, Jose in St. Cloud, Florida. Good evening.
Good evening, Scott. Sorry for jumping the rope. I didn't know you guys have rules with the call signs and stuff. I usually go on, if it's a repeater, I usually ask for audio check. And hopefully someone answers. If it's on HF, I usually get in a group with personnel, and I asked for how the sounding or maybe the signal is coming out. Back to you, Scott. Have a wonderful evening, and the rest of you also. Take care. 73.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us, Jose. Always a pleasure. Have a good evening. KF4ACB, Terry, in Harrogate, Tennessee. Good evening.
Hello, from the Volunteer State, KF4ACB in Harrogate, Tennessee. Right where Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia all three meet. I usually go for local audio checks, just to the local repeaters or whatever, where I know people. On HF, I tend to listen first because I don't want to interrupt conversations that might be kind of interchanging back and forth quite a bit. I don't want to interrupt anything, so I always listen first and then I ask. Generally, that works out pretty good. 14.3 is a good place to go, but that's pretty much it. I'm pretty much like everybody else. I just I'll use the node numbers every now and then to get an echo test. But I want to make one other comment while I've got the mic here. You guys doing the net tonight are doing a spectacular job. I just really am impressed with the way you handle the net and deal with chaos at times. And I just wanted to make that clear how much I appreciate you all doing it and how well you do it. We'll turn it back to you. 73 to everybody, KF4ACB.
Well, thank you, Terry. There's a bunch of people who make this work every week, believe me. You have yourself a great evening, and thanks for joining us again. All right, let's go to one of our team members, Joe, KO4FRR, down in South Florida. Good evening, Joe.
Well, good evening, Scott and Jason and the crew. This is Joe, KF4FR. I see that Jason just got drafted. Congratulations. To answer the question, I'll probably wait until the junkyard dog yells at me. Just joking, hi. I'll probably just go parrot. Have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. KF4FR.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. That's right. He only says that because he knows he's asleep this time of night. Have a good night, Joe, and thanks for joining us. This is W2BLT. Next up, W4FWN. Dan, Sanford, Florida. Good evening.
Well, good evening, Scott, and everyone else on the net. This is W4FWN. In the digital modes, I use Parrot, and I never thought about using the delay on the ECR. Very good idea. I think I might start using that and seeing how it sounds FM-wise. So back to net control. This is W4FWN.
I can't tell you the last time I asked for a radio check. I only asked for a radio check when I changed something, and it's been years since I've changed anything. Have a good evening. AC4, BR, Brian in Monticello, Kentucky. Good evening.
Good evening, Scott, and everybody else on the net there. As for the checks, well, I've not done a lot, but still kind of inexperienced. Got the test out of the way at least, but still building up my stuff. But anyway, usually I've done a little with Parrot. Usually just ask people though on VHF, UHF. I always forget about that feature on the website, and of course I kind of hate the sound of my own voice anyway, which I guess is common for a lot of people, but don't sound country in my head till I get on somewhere that records my voice, and it's like they say on Facebook that I sound like a bale of hay. But anyway, I've just got a couple of antennas built for HF, so hopefully getting on there soon. But anyway, Scott, I'll turn it back to you all, and this is AC4BR.
Thank you, Brian. You have yourself a great evening. I appreciate you joining us. KQ4 LNZ, Landon and Nancy, Kentucky. Good evening.
Good evening, Net Control, and everybody else on the net. This is KQ4 LNZ from Nancy, Kentucky. I am just north of Monticello, Kentucky, so pretty close to the other station there. I think it was Brian. Pretty sure I'm familiar with him. Usually, we have a local repeater here, and 2-meter repeater, and our club president always has 50-odd some radios on inside his shack there, and he's always monitoring. So I usually give him a shout, and like I said, if I'm within range of that repeater, I have no problem contacting him. But yeah, that's usually how I do it. That's all I got for the net. Thanks for running the net, and I'll turn it back over to Net Control. This is KQ4 LNZ, Landon and Nancy. I'll be clear.
Alrighty, Landon, and that's a great resource to have when you know somebody's probably going to be there. Thanks for joining us. KQ4 FAG, Pat in Harvest, Alabama. Good evening.
Good evening, Scott, and everybody else on the net. This is KQ4FAG. I've never done a radio check. I've never had any reason to believe there was something wrong with my radio. But what I do is when I start a QSO with somebody, I always ask them how my signal is. And so, in a way, I'm getting radio checks that way. 73 to everybody. Back to you, Scott.
Alrighty, thank you, Pat. Have yourself a great evening, and appreciate you joining us every week. Next up, one of our team members here, David, K4FXC, in Wilmington, North Carolina. Good evening, David.
Yeah, W2BLT in the net K4FXC. Good evening, everybody. I very, very rarely do a radio check. In fact, the actual radio check, I can't remember the last one I did do. However, I do certainly, I'll ask, am I getting to the repeater okay, just to make sure I'm sitting in a good spot if I'm on an HT or a weaker radio. And when I'm working on repeaters, I certainly will do desense testing with somebody that's weak out in the field, just enabling and disabling the transmitter, seeing if there's any change in the noise floor on the receiver for the received signal coming in. And on HF, I will usually do some spot checks of my signal, particularly if I'm set up portable or shield A or something like that, on Web SDR, and just go listen to my own signal on Web SDR and make sure that sounds okay. For testing, otherwise, I lots of times just record audio files and listen to that, or use a service monitor. So a lot of different ways, but rarely actual quote-unquote radio check, because I'm usually looking for, I'm wanting to see how my signal sounds rather than a more, someone else's opinion about it, which can be interpreted differently from what I'm thinking. Anyway, K4FXC back to that.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you joining us and everything you do for the system. And last on this list, KM4TC, Terry in Four Oaks, North Carolina. Good evening, Terry, and where do you go to do your radio checks?
Good to hear you on tonight. Doing a great job as always. I don't really do radio checks, so to speak. I mean, if I'm talking to some of my buddies on our local repeater here, I'll say, does this thing sound okay? I was on the SDRs tonight, though, on HF. I was out here playing with a little QRP, one of those little USDX QRP rigs, and I got on 80 meters with, and that thing only does 2.5 watts on 80. And I was able to hear myself. I found a quiet spot, was able to record myself on the Washington, D.C. Receiver and one in Pennsylvania and see what it sounded like. And I could copy. It was weak though. But, and I of course, use the Echo Parrot and the same thing with Echo Link if I'm using it. But I like everybody else. Anyway, thanks, Scott. KM4TC.
All right, thank you, Terry. And just to let you know, you're a little bit overdriven on that mic tonight there. I don't know if you're just too close for it or you got something turned up too much, but you might want to look into it. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Alrighty, folks, this is W2BLT, and it's time to go to the fives. If you have a 5 in your call sign, please come now.
Kilo Juliet 5, Kilo Uniform X-Ray. Kilo Juliet 5, Kilo Uniform X-Ray.
Kilowatt 5, Hotel Lima Hotel, 5 HO.
Kilo Juliet 5, Lima Charlie Delta. Kilo Juliet 5, Lima Charlie Delta.
Kilowatt 5, Hotel Lima Hotel. Alrighty, let's hold it there for a moment. Let me acknowledge who I have here and see if we missed anybody in there. I got KL5 VI David, K5HLH Harry, got KI5 PMI Bill via the text, and I got KJ5 KUX Ricky in Houston. Who else do we have with a 5 in your call sign? Please come with your call sign twice.
Kilo Juliet 5, Lima Charlie Delta. Kilo Juliet 5, Lima Charlie Delta.
Kilo 5, Romeo Lima Romeo. K5 RLR.
There. Got K5 RLR and KJ5 LCD. Anyone else? Last call for the 5s.
WA. Did I make it in here? WA5 AR.
Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet November Juliet, attempting.
Maybe I make it now. WA5 AR.
Alrighty, we got you, Charlie. There was some interference in there, but never cover you up. Who else do we have with a 5 in your call sign? Please come now. Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet November Juliet, KJ5 JNJ. Already recognizing KJ5JNJ, Justin and Conroe. Let's go to the top of this list. The question of the evening is, where do you go to do your radio checks? Good evening, Ricky, KJ5KUX in Houston, Texas.
Well, howdy. Good evening, everybody. From Houston, Texas. This is Ricky. I'm just getting into the hobby myself, and so I have very minimal experience. I've been working VHF, UHF. I typically do a signal test by using a handheld transceiver and also checking with folks on local repeaters. That's about it for me. Everybody have a good evening. Thank you very much for the Tech Net. Appreciate you doing net control. This is KJ5 KUX 73, everybody.
Have yourself a good evening, Ricky, and thanks for joining us. Next up, KI5 PMI via the text line. Bill in Hobbs, New Mexico. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening, Scott, everybody on the net. I don't check radio very often, but when I do, I just go on the Reflector. Hope everybody has a good night. KI5 PMI. Back to net.
Thank you, Bill, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Let's go out to Grant, New Mexico to Harry, K5HLH. Good evening.
This is K5HLH, Harry in Grant, New Mexico. Answer the question for this evening's net. Normally I do it on our local repeaters. I try to monitor both the repeaters here for the club at my house 24/7. But if the weather's bad, I'll also put out a little broadcast, which we've done the last week, if there's anybody listening, because we've got some hail and some thunderstorms that could create a tornado down south and east of us. So other than that, back to net. Have a good evening, K5.
Alrighty, thank you, Harry. You have yourself a great evening. KL5VI, David up in Soldotna, Alaska. Good evening, David.
Hello, Scott. Pronounced that right. That happens occasionally. I do mine, all my checks on Echo or Parrot if it's available, and if not, then I just trust somebody to let me know. That's it for me. Back to you, Scott. KL5VI. Thanks, everybody.
Alright, have a good evening, David, and thanks for joining us. KJ5 LCD, Lewis from Pinehurst, Texas. Good evening.
Good evening to everybody out on the net. There's a couple of local ham repeaters close to my house. Only time I do a radio check is if I'm testing out a new radio, programming it and getting set up to install in one of my vehicles, just to make sure everything's working before I go through the trouble of putting it in the but other than that, actually, I respond to a lot of radio checks. If I hear somebody calling out for a radio check, I'll go out of my way a little bit just to respond to them. But yeah, I'm not too often, just whenever I'm getting a new radio set up. But KJ5 LCD, and I'll send it back to net control.
Give me a radio check one time.
Alrighty, thank you. Appreciate you joining us. You have a great evening. Next up, K5RLR, Randall in Spring, Texas. Good evening, Randall.
Well, good evening there to you, Scott, and everybody else on the Tech Net, and Brother Scott, if you're out there listening, and everybody else. K5RLR. I would have to say that I typically don't ask for radio checks. If I think something's off or if I've changed something, I might set a secondary radio close by that I can hear on simplex. That way I'm not interfering with a repeater and or anybody else, at least intentionally. And that's my story on Sick and Tight. Hope everybody has a good evening. 73s to all, and we'll see everybody here in the morning on the morning brew. Hope everybody has a good evening. 73s. Back to you, Scott. K5RLR. Clear.
Thanks for joining us, Randall. Appreciate it. Next up, Charlie, the voice of Montgomery, Texas. WA5 AIR. Good evening, Charlie.
Hey, good evening. Hope somebody's doing good. Well, here on the South Coast Reflector here in Texas, we have, what's it called, Broadcastify? I think that's how you say it. And I need to check something out. Very seldom I do, but if I do, I go over there and I turn that on and I listen to myself. But most of the time, I hear a lot of people asking for a radio check. Yeah, and I try to give them my address and get them to mail that radio to me and I'll check it out. Not saying they'll get it back, but, I'll check it out first. Hope you're having a good evening, Scott, from WA5AR.
Thanks, Charlie. Always a pleasure. And this afternoon we were talking in the Zoom about tomorrow morning's aeronautical net, and they were talking about, somebody said, I'd rather fly in a plane than jump out of one. And I said, I'm going to have to hook you up with Charlie. He'll straighten you out on that deal. Have a good evening, Charlie. Always a pleasure. This is W2BLT. Next up, KJ5JNJ, Justin in Conroe, Texas. Good evening.
KJ5JNJ, thank you very much for doing the net. And to answer the question, I'll say that I typically try to do them on a simplex frequency that is as close as I can get to the frequency that I would normally operate on that radio. And sometimes I'll just use the repeater. If I'm doing repeater work, I'll just use the repeater input out any tones, and that seems to work as well, pretty well. So, or I just got a dummy load recently, so I can start using that. So there's my solutions. KJ5JNJ, thanks again. Back to the control.
Alrighty, thank you, Justin. Appreciate you joining us tonight, and have a good one. Last time that's it for the fives. Alrighty, now we're going to go to the late and missed. We already have one here via the text line. We have KG7JXD, Lance. Who else do we have that was late to the party or just missed your call, district? Please come now.
2074, Uniform Whiskey Foxtrot, St. Petersburg.
Juliet, Kilo Golf 7, Kilo Mike Juliet. Kilo Foxtrot 0, Uniform Golf Whiskey KF 0 UGW.
This is
Kilo Juliet 5 Lima Hotel Yankee. Kilo Juliet 5 Lima Hotel Yankee.
Oh, November 6th. Kilo November 6th, Golf Sierra Golf. Kilo November 6th, Golf Sierra Golf.
All right, let me pick it up there for a moment and recognize KN6 GSG Barry, KF0 UGW Jason, KG7 KMJ Tony, W2 CJM Charles, KQ4 UWF Brad, KD6 CWI Ruben, and we had a station ending in LHT. Could you come back with that call sign, please? Nothing heard. Is there anybody I didn't acknowledge out there? Please come with your call sign twice.
Kilo Juliet 5 Lima Hotel Yankee. Kilo Juliet 5 Lima Hotel Yankee.
Alrighty, we got KJ5 LHY and the gavel has struck. Let's go to the top of this list. The question of the evening is, where do you go to do your radio checks? Let's go to KG7 JXD Lance in Layton, Utah. Good evening. KG7 JXD, are you still with me? How about KD6 CWI? Ruben out in Fallbrook. Good evening.
Control, good evening everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. The question for tonight, my answer would be I check into all the connections that I have, primarily the ECR, which we're on right now, and some other reflectors that's available to me. So I probably have like 6 or 7 of them that I'm monitoring. And that would be it. And stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy life, and God bless everyone. 73 KD6 CWI.
Alrighty, thank you, Ruben. Have yourself a great evening. Appreciate you joining us. Next up, Brad, KQ4 UF over in St. Petersburg, Florida. Good evening, Brad.
Good evening, and thank you for doing the net radio check. I checked, since the beginning of hurricane season, I checked every contact I had programmed into this radio with the station themselves. Thank you for UWF.
Hey, Brad, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Next up, W2 CJM, Charles in Selden, New York.
Good evening, Scott. Everybody on the brew. If I'm checking my radio, I'll ask somebody for a radio check. If not, I'll just key it up. If I hear I open up the tone from the repeater, I know I'm good. Thanks for doing the net. Have a great night.
Alrighty, Charles, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. KG7 KMJ, Tony in Portland, Oregon. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening, and thank you for that. For me, whenever I'm doing a radio check, it's pretty much whoever I can get, wherever I can get them.
here in Portland, Oregon, you'd be surprised about how actual little is going on throughout the day, unless you're listening real close. KG7, KMJ.
All right, have a good evening, Tony. Thanks for joining us. KF0UGW, Jason in Thornton, Colorado. Good evening.
Good evening to you, and thank you for this net. Learned a lot from everybody, and a few different things I'm going to incorporate, but I program a HT to what I'm trying to have a radio check for, and then whenever I do call, I'll give my call sign, and then at the end say there's no need for return or no need to reply, because I'm hearing myself in real time, and that's what I do. Back to the net, KF0UGW.
Hey, thanks, Jason. Appreciate you joining us tonight. Next up, a KN6, GSG, Barry in Moss Beach, California. Good evening, Barry.
Well, good evening to you and the rest of the net. This is Barry, KN6 GSG, but I am in Anacortes, Washington today. I'll be here for a little while. Radio checks, for HF, I use the SDR, but I haven't done any kind of official radio checks on HF. And on digital, for the Pacific Northwest Digital, they have an audio check that gives you numbers and feedback and everything else you need to know that you should be or not do, or what you shouldn't be doing. And that's about it. Thank you for letting me check in. This is Barry, KN6 GSG, back to the net.
All righty, thank you, Barry. And the last one for this evening is going to close us out. Let's go out to New Caney, Texas, to KJ5 LHY, Daniel. Good evening.
KJ5 LHY, Daniel in New Caney. I guess I've got a bit of a two-parter to this. One, I always answer radio checks coming from GMRS. I personally use them to kind of establish that I was even making contact. But as I've learned, I don't really do radio checks over a repeater network or anything like that. I just start talking, and if I'm making it and I get a reply, they'll tell me what's wrong. So that's kind of the way I view it. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you joining us, and you have a great evening out there in Texas. All right, that's going to do it for us for tonight, folks. On behalf of Dick WB2JPQ, Jason K4KU, and Vicky KE8VKY on the log, trying to keep everybody straight tonight. This is Scott W2BLT, thanking everyone for stopping by, and we will return the reflector to normal amateur use. 7-3, everyone.
KF0UGW, KF0RKF.
KF0UGW.
Yeah, good evening, KF0UGW. This is KF0RKF, Gary and Littleton. Just listening to a bit of the last net and heard your call sign. And since you're a Colorado guy, I thought I'd check in real quick and say hello.
Yes, sir. How are you doing this evening, Gary? Hope some of the weather that we're seeing around has passed you over.
Yeah, doing well down here in Southwest Metro. We really didn't get anything. I saw some radar reports up in your area. I think it shows on QRZ you're in Thornton. But no, nothing down here, just hot and dry this evening.
Well, it's dry, really cloudy, occasional thunder that I'm hearing, but yeah, pretty clear, or pretty uneventful, let's put it that way. Hope your day today went well.
Yeah, copy that. Yeah, I'm semi-retired. I work 2 or 3 days a week just doing operations stuff for a local chain, but yeah, doing good. I am curious, how are you connecting tonight? I'm going through the repeater there at Buckley Space Force Base.
That's the way I'm connecting to. I think I did the math on it, and then the Space Force Base is, it's weird calling it that, but that's what it is. So 20 to 25 miles from my house, so it's not too far, but not quite close.
Yeah, copy that. Yeah, I'm a Colorado native, and I always knew it as Buckley Air Force Base, and then they changed it. And it's about, I think, 25 miles from our place as well. Your signal's real good tonight, very clear and readable, and you're clearing the repeater just fine.
Well, that's good to hear, and you're